I think it is possible to say, when looking back at the way in which my magazine conformed to codes and conventions, that my magazine was very conventional. When looking at real media products in order to see how conventional my magazine was, I think it is possible to say that the way in which I made my magazine conformed successfully to codes and conventions. In this PowerPoint you have seen, I have compared my media product to different real-life media products. I have done this given that it would give me an understanding of how well I have been able to conform to codes and conventions, thus meaning that I would get a better understanding of how effective my product was when it came to conforming to codes and conventions. Before picking out the media products that I was going to look at, I did a couple of things. Firstly, I ensured that I had a couple of real media products produced by different companies, given that this would allow me to get a range of understandings via the different conventions that companies use. It would also ensure that my product was conforming to codes and conventions of a magazine front cover rather than just codes and conventions that one particular company used. Therefore, in ensuring that I had a range of companies, I would successfully make my analysis of how effective my media products was in terms of conforming to codes and conventions more valid, given that I compared my media products to different companies' products. I also ensured that the products I compared my real media product to was of the same genre, given that this would ensure how well I'd conform to genre codes and conventions rather than just format conventions of a magazine front cover. I think it is possible to say, just from looking at the way in which I was able to pick out different features that I had used and my real media products had also used, that the way in which I had produced and constructed my magazine front cover was extremely conventional. The way in which I was able to identify similarities between my media products and all three of the media products that I picked out shows and demonstrates how I must have been conforming to conventions effectively, given that there were clear, noticeable, and evident similarities between all four of the products in combination. I would say that the combination of my media products was really effective, given that the way in which I produced my media product meant that it looked like a magazine. For example, I followed traditional and conventional layout structures, such as placing the masthead at the top of the page. I would say that the way in which I was able to conform to codes and conventions of a magazine was shown through the way in which I was able to easily identify similarities between my media product and the real media product that I was looking into. Although I did find differences between my media product and the media product I was looking into, personally I felt that this was a good thing. I felt that the differences that I found were a good thing, given that it shows that I had thought about my media product carefully and how I wanted to construct it to ensure that it conformed to the brand identity and house style that I was trying to create. It showed that I was not just copying the real media products that I had looked at, but I was successfully applying codes and conventions in a sophisticated manner. The way in which you can see how I have successfully been able to draw out and pick on different features that I had used within my product and within the real media product demonstrates how I was able to successfully conform to codes and conventions in several different manners. The way in which it was really easy to pick out similarities between my media product and the media product I looked at shows and demonstrates the way in which I had successfully conformed to codes and conventions in a good and clear manner. This was important given that it would allow my consumer to identify that my product was promoting a film and it was in the format of a magazine front cover. Therefore, the way in which I found it really quick and easy to identify the ways in which my media product conformed to conventions of real media products demonstrates the way in which I successfully conform to codes and conventions, given that the way in which I had produced my media product meant that it would be easy to identify and recognize as a film magazine front cover for consumers. This therefore demonstrates how I was able to effectively conform to codes and conventions within my media product, given that the way in which I produced my product meant it not only looked professional and sophisticated looking, but it conformed to conventions and therefore made my product easily identifiable. From the different media products that I looked at, there were some clear differences. However, like I have already mentioned, these differences were a good thing, and I was glad that I found differences between my real media products and my own product. I think that the fact I found differences shows that my understanding of codes and conventions was not just literal but was more comprehensive and detailed, thus showing how I was able to effectively conform to codes and conventions in some places, but also able to effectively challenge codes and conventions or go against them in my own manner in order to create an effective and professional house style, which would thus help combine my other media products and ensure that I was creating a brand identity. However, I think it is possible to say that I have conformed to enough codes and conventions that real media products conform to in order to make my product identifiable as a magazine, front cover, and conventional. Therefore, I think it is possible to say that the way in which I have conformed to codes and conventions was really effective, and I couldn't have done much more in order to conform to codes and conventions of a magazine front cover.